And welcome to Wisdom and Torah Ministries, guys. Thank you for joining me today. This particular program to me is very special because it's not really about focusing on theology or focusing on a lot of information, biblical information for you to like have a class or a teaching. It's going to be more of a testimony about what true righteousness and justice and how it is applied in the modern world. And let me give you a little backdrop to the story here. But before I do that, I want to remind you for you to please hit a like, subscribe, and share this page so that other people can be blessed. And if you find this interview on this podcast edifying to you, please make sure you let as many people know about this because we need the support. And I think once we get through this interview with two very special people, I think you may want to get involved. Now, I think a few months back, I can't remember exactly when, I received a call while I was making transition from one plane to another, and I'm traveling all the time. So sometimes I get calls and I answer. I like to answer my own phone calls, believe it or not. And this gentleman called me, and his name is Matthew Martin. He started talking to me. He's all excitable, and he's telling me about going to Honduras, and I say yes. And he's telling me a little bit about that, but in my mind, I thought, oh, I'm just going to go down there and teach. It's a ministry trip. Perfect. Okay, good. So then later on, I find out that he has a ministry. And I got to tell you, I didn't go there to teach. I ended up having conversations with 14 other amazing men about the Bible. We had a great experience, but it was an experience that really touched me. It made an impact in my life. And I thought it would be prudent for me to bring Matt in here and try to share with you his vision and what I believe is an important ministry. Not only is taking place in Honduras, but I'm sure other people have similar ministries in different places. But I cannot testify about what they're doing because I haven't been there. I could only testify for what I have seen with my eyes, what I was able to experience. And I got to tell you that it touched my heart and is a very important thing that I have actually endorsed. So the ministry is called Project E15. 15 E15 is like based on Project Ephesians 1:5. It's a biblical based ministry. The president is Matthew Martin. And I even told him, I said, I didn't know if I would be able to come out here. At first, I had an instinct to say no. But then when I say yes, man, when I got there, I'm glad I said yes. And I'm glad I was able to go. It was very impacting. And I want to welcome Matt here so you guys can meet him. Let me see how I can get you back, Matt. Give me 1 second. Let's try it now. There we go. There's Mike, and there. Let me get some Matt. There's Matt. How you doing, Mike? Mike, let me introduce you already. Mike was also there. He is a board member of Project E15, E5, E15. I don't know which one do you use.
E15.
E15. There you go. Project E15. And Mike was down there. I met him, and the moment we started talking, we hit it off.
Yeah.
And we've been talking as much as we can, and I'm really glad to have you both. Please introduce yourself. Matt, please go on first.
Yeah, my name is Matthew Martin, the founder of Project E15, operate as the president and director. We launched about 5 years ago. We set out to operate with this ministry. We've been going to Honduras since 2015, so a little over a decade. But about almost 6 years ago, started the residency process. Our family has residency. We're based out of Tegucigalpa, Honduras, which is the same location, if you're familiar with the movie Sound of Freedom, where the same children that were taken out of that film was Tegucigalpa, Honduras, that same city. We're actually maybe 20 minutes from even where it was filmed. And now we were there before the movie, but there's certain on the children being taken out of that country and that city. And we are a certified aftercare program for children that have been rescued out of trafficking and exploitation and other just terrible situations that come through an organization called SESECT. SESECT is a United Nations funded organization. SESECT stands for the Coalition of institutionalized sex trafficking and um, prostitution,
Yeah.
exploitation.
You know, you
So
know, Matt, that was really interesting. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Mike, before we continue.
Oh, okay. Thank you. My name is Mike Sutcliffe. I'm the online ministries pastor for Corner Fringe Ministries out of Coon Rapids, Minnesota, and the pastor at Corner Fringe Dixon in Dixon, Illinois. And I serve with on the board at Project E15.
Awesome. Well, let me start with this. Now that you mentioned it, Matt, when I went to see you guys, I didn't know exactly what I was getting into. You told me a little bit about it, but you only gave certain amount of information. And one of the things that truly, really impacted me is when we went to the house. And we'll talk about all this stuff, but I just want to give you my personal experience that really I was like blown away. I had no idea. You told us the rules and but you didn't really say why those rules were particular. I think you do all those stuff on purpose to give us. And when we got to the house, we saw all these kids playing and we saw these young ladies and all of a sudden we go to the second story and you start talking about it in that room. And that's when it caught on. It caught on that, wait a minute, these kids were all trafficked. And that really hit me because I have a 2.5-year-old granddaughter. And I saw young ladies with babies. One of them my granddaughter's age. And I'm thinking, oh my, how would I respond? How would I act? God forbid anybody would dare do any damage to any of my kids or my grandkids. That really touched me because, as I was telling Mike, I do teachings on righteousness and justice. Man, brother, what you're doing down there really is an act of righteousness and justice, setting captives free and taking care of the brokenhearted and, ministering to the captives. And I saw it. One of the things that really impacted me was also when the kids started worshiping, we started singing to the Lord. And I was just sitting out back watching, and I'm watching the kids. And it blew me away how these kids, they are so wounded, but yet those two girls, man, they were worshiping from the heart. And I haven't really seen that in a long time. And that's when I realized people don't know how good some people have it. And then when you go over there, you see those kids who have every excuse to give up and they choose to try to heal. And I want to thank God first and then give you thanks for that vision that you have and for that type of organization that you've developed. So tell me a little bit more about your vision, how that came about, and the proactive steps that you're taking. And feel free, Mike, if you want to, interject when he's talking about something that you saw that could help complement it, feel free to do so. Okay.
yeah.
I don't want to take your time. I want you guys to tell us about this. It's important. So tell us about the vision, the steps that you took to make it happen, and how you are actually in a very amazing way doing business. And the business that you're doing is, I'm blown away, but I want the audience to hear you instead of me. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Well, and first, I want to just thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for the ministry that you're doing, the teaching that you're doing. And when I called you, I'm like, there's no way he's answering the phone. I was expecting to leave a voicemail. And not only did you answer, but you took the time, you were busy, you listened, and then you took time out of your schedule to come and to see the work that we're doing. And so grateful for you coming and the ministry that you or how you prayed over those kids, and how our team and our staff, forever grateful and conversation.
I'm honored to be part of it. Thank you.
So we when we launched, we were initially looking to just open up a traditional children's home. And having gone to Honduras and many Central American countries over the years, growing up in Arizona, we frequented Mexico and other Latin American countries like a Costa Rica or a Belize. And in coming to Honduras, there's some similarities in just a developing country. And my wife and I, we had a heart, and the Father gave us a vision to just help children, because there's a lot of children in need in that country. And as we were going through the process and the legal process of opening what we thought would be a traditional children's home, and it's amazing when you're just walking in obedience.
Uh-huh.
There's a thing you have in your mind of what that looks like that we just see that the Father kind of defines for you
Right.
as you move. But the important thing is that you're just obedient. When he says go, like Abraham, you go. And so we went, and as it really, with a lot of unknowns, we didn't have a lot of answers, just to be faithful and to go. And as we were going through the legal process of getting not only residency, because residency is a requirement within the country of Honduras to purchase real estate, to open up a nonprofit.
Okay.
And so that was kind of step one, was walking through the residency process. We were approached by this organization called SESECT. And as I was mentioning earlier, and SESECT being launched in 2019 by the United Nations during Donald Trump's first term. He worked with the European Coalition and a couple other countries to create a kind of organization that was going to hold other countries accountable, specifically facilitating the needs of victims, of minor victims of trafficking. Because what was happening prior to 2019 is, as these victims are getting rescued in trafficking, they're getting sent back to their home country, and they're not being well taken care of. They're getting sent back to government institutions, sometimes just work, they're getting forgotten about, they're not getting the support that they need, and they need a lot of support. These aren't just normal children. These are children that the worst things imaginable have happened to them. And the United States, in response, and the UN and et cetera, are also seeing the responsibility, because statistics that you hear, for instance, in the movie Sound of Freedom, or you can go to congress.gov and see some of these statistics, but the United States is the #1 consumer of trafficking in the world. And
Yeah.
so a big this problem exists is because the consumer and the sin that exists in this country, and
Yeah.
how what they're doing. And uh so SESECT was looking for organizations that was willing to operate as what we call an aftercare program, which um, receives the children and holds them while the government continues the process of getting them rehabilitated back home, and going through the government nuances of paperwork and home studies with the parents, making sure that it's safe, and who's receiving them back, that they're not further in danger, et cetera, which is a time-consuming process, A, because it's government, and B, because sometimes there's still bad men at large that need
Yeah.
to get caught. And with that, during that period of time, being a certified aftercare program, we have to have an amazing team and resource for trauma care, for counseling, for psychological care, for medical care, that these children now need. And it's a logistical nightmare, right? It's very
Oh, okay.
difficult.
I got to see a little bit of what you guys do, even teaching them English. That's incredible too.
That's right. That's right. Well, and more than that, we're wanting to provide every opportunity, right? Every opportunity. And so we agreed to, really not knowing at the time what we were signing up for,
Yeah.
but all knowing and getting that confirmation from the Father, that when Sesect came to us, it was so clear, like, that's why we were here. This is exactly why the Father asked us to come and to do this work. And so, um, of the trafficking that exists in the United States, somewhere, depending on what data source you're using, on the low end, it's in the 60 percentile. On the high end, it's in the low 80s. So
Wow.
8 out of 10 children that are being trafficked in the United States are of Latin American descent,
Wow. That's
right?
crazy. That
Right.
that's way too high.
It's way too high.
So let me ask you this question. So the whole structure that you guys developed for the house that we got to see, is that something that was already a blueprint given to you guys to follow, or something that you guys implemented considering every aspect of the needs of the kids?
Because this organization is so new, there is no blueprint. There's a blueprint of care, accessibility that they want, but that we need to have accessible. but there really is no blueprint,
Yeah,
uh, fortunately. And so a lot of this has been just prayerfully and carefully placed one foot in front of the other as we receive each child. Every child has different needs because they have different
yeah,
traumas, experiences, how long they were in it, at what age. And because of that, we've really just created a home that's cultivated around the care of the children that we have, that has evolved and formed into what we have today.
that's true.
Um,
Yeah, that was really cool. I remember when you told us a story about the two kids who were waking up at 2 in the morning because they were used as child slaves and they were forced to work, get up at 2 in the morning. So I wonder how shocking that was for the house to deal with two young kids waking up every night at 2 in the morning. We
that's
don't
right.
think about that, we sleep in.
That's right. Well, and there's, overnight staff is so important because so much of what we're working with three initial things when we first receive a child. We have to work through self-harm, we have to work through modeling, and we have to work through fear. And as we
Yeah.
see in Romans 15, that it's a spirit of slavery that causes
Right.
you to fall fear. And so a lot of our children, when we first receive them, they're battling fear to the extent that no one is sleeping well. They're up in the middle of the night. There's nightmares, and getting them to a place of peace, getting them to a place of shalom,
Yeah,
is
that's important.
trust is really our first step with each child.
I'll come back to you, Matthew. I want to get Mike involved here because as someone who's on your board, but eventually not. He actually became part of your board. I'm kind of interested to know his story in regards to the connection that you both have, because what was it, Mike, that provoked you to say, I want to be involved with this guy? I don't really know him, but I want to get to know him and be part of what he's doing. What was it that triggered for you? Everyone is different. Just to know what was for you that made you decide, I need to support this ministry.
Yeah, we were introduced to Matthew and Christy and Project E15 through a now mutual friend, Amber and Whitney Thornborough, while I was visiting Lex Myers Church down in Oklahoma about a year and a half ago. And my wife, we're a small church. At that point we had just outgrew our home and we're in a building, and we were looking for a ministry that we could come alongside and support. And so when my wife mentioned that to Amber, they immediately said, we have to introduce you to Matthew. And so we came back home from Oklahoma and we had our first call with Matthew and Christy, and they explained the whole program to us. And, we wanted to be good stewards. We get a lot of requests for support, just like every other ministry in the world.
Yeah.
And we thought, to do our due diligence, we would go to Honduras with Matthew and see firsthand before we told anyone about the work that was going on. And so we flew down there, and it was a short trip, just like ours, Rico. Like it was,
Yeah.
I think I'm still recovering from our trip. You fly down a couple of
Yeah.
days, you stay up late talking scripture, you go to bed, right?
Yeah.
It took a little while for us to recover from our trip to Honduras. And what I saw there, especially like, you talked about being in the children's home. That's one aspect, right? Seeing Matthew interact with the children. And
Yeah.
it wasn't Matthew per se. It was how the kids responded to him. The genuine love that was in their eyes when he walked through the door. I walked in the door very like on guard, watching every moment.
Yeah.
The genuine love between Matthew, Christy, his children, and the children there is evident. And then to see the work that Matthew's ministry is doing throughout Honduras with the other organizations, and hearing about Jason and the Children of the Mountain and Trash Mountain and the hospital. My wife and I came back after our weekend there, our 4-day trip there, transformed. We were
Yeah.
like, just like you had said, like you would give me this, we're in this heavy study on justice and righteousness here in Dixon. This is what it means. I don't want to be a hearer of the word. I want to be a doer of the word.
Yeah.
And seeing the change, watching these children. I've been a part of other missions organizations, training pastors in Africa, short-term missions, but to see the transformation in the lives. And I love that every aspect of what Matthew is doing down there is elevating the Torah in the eyes and hearts of Central America.
Oh, that
Like
is,
you talked about
I
the
got you.
business, right? The
Yeah.
business is literally a Torah-based model. They keep Shabbat off, and the children are not just getting fed today; they're being equipped for tomorrow. This is a whole life solution, and
Yeah.
I just want to come alongside and serve Matthew and his family in their calling.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm glad you mentioned that because I saw the same thing too. There was one time I'm looking for Matthew. He's sitting eating with the kids, and
Yeah,
one of the things that really intrigued me is treating people with equity. You know, it's not just, well, he's the leader. No, he was one of the kids when he had to be, and he was a counselor when he had to be. I mean, and that's hard to do because
yeah,
I deal with kids all the time as a former baseball scout and also in martial arts. You have to find that balance of when to hang out and when to be the leader. And I thought you handled that very well. But one of the things that you mentioned just now, Mike, but you didn't go deeper on is how you manage business entrepreneurship with helping the people in need. And I like for you to really share that with the audience because that impressed me. You see, you still have support from people. And I think the donations and the support of the people are important, obviously. But you've done something a little different. You what you've done, you used your tools and your abilities in business, and you found the way that you can maintain through business, provide jobs to the people. And let me tell you why I really want to emphasize this point because I saw how they treat you everywhere you went.
hmm
And normally in Latin America, I lived in Venezuela. So when I lived in Venezuela, Venezuelan people are amazing people, but they treated Americans depending what the Americans did for them, based on if you help them and you really genuinely help them, they'll give you everything. I mean, they'll treat you as a family and things like that. That's what I saw. I saw your staff, very nice people, and I saw the way they treated you everywhere they went. So I began to pay more attention to how you were treating them and what you were doing because I lived in Latin America. So I'm from Puerto Rico and I lived in Venezuela for a while. But if you mind, share that vision of business and how you're able to use business to provide jobs for the local people that is actually better benefits than regular jobs. And then at the same time, you're helping the house to complement to maintain it. And I thought that was very unique and very, very much creative and a blessing, by the way. Go ahead, tell me about that.
Yeah, I think that for me, I've been an entrepreneur for going on 21 years. And one of the revelations we received, and this is a big part of my story of coming into Torah, the ministry of this was uh, um, really a catalyst. I tell people that I found that the kindness and the mercy of the Father and lifting the veil of myself, my wife, my family was at the hinge of our obedience of walking into ministry. And when we founded this ministry and we were in the Sunday church, and we were a part of a church for 13 years that we've been faithfully serving, and the floor really was taken out from under us. We had a nasty church split and everything pulled back, and my wife and I found ourselves in a place where we knew this was going to cost us some financially, but we went into this thinking that this church we've been part of over a decade was really going to help us financially.
Mm,
And uh and that was removed. My wife and I are now in a situation where in order for us to carry out this vision, we had to go all in. We had to sell stuff,
wow.
right? We had to ourselves into this to get this off the ground. And then that really put us in a situation of faith of going, how much do we believe the Father has asked us
Right.
to do this? And so we did. We financially went all in, and uh, in that moment, what the Father began to teach me also was my business was never mine. the things that he had called me to steward was never mine,
Mhm.
and it was his from the beginning. And walk as that began to begin it was such a
Yeah.
blessing. It was such a blessing. And it's not that we weren't generous before. It wasn't that but it was different because our our business lives were separated from our giving, our generosity, our kingdom. Right, there was a difference between the kingdom I was building and the kingdom of God that I was supporting. There was a and the Father removed that delineation,
Yeah.
and it all became His kingdom. And in a really interesting way, uh, the Father really affirmed in us, and as we began that, and in those early days, that this was supposed to be the plan all
Right.
along. This is how it was. And as we're continue to walk into ministry, then that started, and through the experience that I had with one of our board members that is down there. His name is Jason Mina, and a coffee farm, and what he was using, I really, it was like the whole Paul making
I like
tents
that. I
situation.
like that coffee story. That's kind of cool.
Yes. And give the Cliff Notes version, this gentleman that I've known for at this point maybe 7 years, seeing him as a young man. He's much younger than me. Beautiful story. He was an orphan that grew up in a boys' home, and he started a ministry called Niños de Montaña, right? Children of the Mountains, and from where he was from. And as he is just faithfully serving with what he has, his fish and his loaves, if you will, that he thought was a very small deal, but just faithfully bringing what he had, um, by the miraculous, a man within the community that he was serving signed over his coffee farm over to Jason, and told Jason that this coffee farm, that the produce, because coffee is fruit,
Yeah.
the literal fruit was for him to accomplish the vision that the Father had given him. And that as long as he continued to faithfully sow that fruit into the vision, into the kingdom that the Father had given him, that the land would produce fruit.
Mm.
And it was incredible. It was an incredible story. And I got to bear witness to that story. And then that's what got us thinking. We're in 2023, and I'm thinking to myself, what is the fruit of this land other than coffee? Because I don't know anything about coffee except
Yeah.
how delicious it
The coffee is good, but you don't know how to grow it.
is. And so, really think, what is the fruit of this land? And does the Father have a coffee farm for me? Something that can help with the sustainability of the ministry and help us to continue to grow, because that delineation of kingdom and business no longer existed. And so in 2023, we launched H&H Workforce, which is a virtual assistance company. And because within Honduras, and unfortunately, this is a systemic reason that trafficking is also a problem in Honduras, and why it's one of the countries that are the larger suppliers of children, is because of its international and United States relationships. But because of that, also, there are a lot of English speakers, high level of education, to where it's been really beneficial for business in the United States, business in Canada, and other places that are having a hard time finding um, certain people in those roles, and connecting those to the extent that it is helping as a sustainability solution for our nonprofit, because 100% of the proceeds of H&H Workforce is going towards Project E15, and our monthly operations. And so it's been a huge blessing. And I would tell you, I'm a pretty smart guy, but I'm not that smart. That was 100% just the Father's faithfulness in implanting just an awesome idea, and multiplying what he did in another ministry.
Yeah, but that's not easy to do, Matt. When you have business opportunities, you have a vision of a business, and you consciously making a decision to invest 100% of that investment that costs you time and effort, and you and your wife never had the pleasure of meeting your wife and your children, but to be that kind of unselfish, let me start a business, but we're not keeping anything, it's going over there. Mike, that's not normal. That's not, people don't necessarily do that. That's one of the things that impressed me about when you took us over to see the call center. What do you call it?
Yeah, well, virtual
assistant, because you
business,
have different areas between the company that you have high level professionals actually being consultants, and it was really cool. A very, very I mean, normally you think about call centers or answer. No. You have qualified professionals who are actually heavily invested in companies and making a difference. And I was like, wow, I didn't think about this. Well, that's why I'm not a businessman like you, it's just one of those things. So, Mike, how did you feel when you went there for the first time and you started seeing the whole structure? Because normally in ministry, people want your support, but it's always based on donation based. And sometimes it's difficult because not everybody responds. But to go somewhere where, yes, the donation and the support is needed, but God has opened the way to that, create business, to create jobs for people, for the local community, and at the same time to facilitate for the needs of the people. That's very unique. I don't think I've seen that too often within our circles.
Yeah, that would be my experience. For me, I remember when I first got into ministry myself, the pastor who ordained me said that ministry should never follow money. Money should follow ministry. And the message was just go and do the work that the Lord has given you, and he'll provide as you go along. And a lot of the ministries that I have spoken to they want the money up front, or they're not willing to share with you the work that's really being done, or, it just doesn't feel like I'm getting a complete picture. And that's not what I saw down in Honduras. Henry Blackaby wrote in his book, Experiencing God, if you want to experience God, go see where God is working and join him. And so when I went down to Honduras and I saw what Matthew was doing was this, he was building an entire ministry to minister to everyone. I mean, everywhere we went, this should be your experience, right, Rico? Everywhere we went, it was ministry. Whether you were in the office with the employees, these people are getting a better quality of life, a better opportunity to succeed, because he's doing ministry even in business. You saw it when we went to the church on Sunday when he was preaching. We were ministering to that community as well.
Oh, he's not holding back either.
No,
I thought they were going to kick us out.
Yeah. Right. So
we'll talk about that in a minute.
From my perspective, and there was never once a time when Matthew looked at us and said, okay, here's what we want. Never. He just said, this is what we're doing. And then he let the Holy Spirit pierce the heart. And I mean, my wife and I, we came back and we prayed about it. We talked about it. We didn't jump right on to anything. We decided that, for our little church in Dixon, we could only take one partner to support. And so based on the integrity and the heart of what we saw at Project E15, they became our partner. So we tithe to them because of the work that we've seen and the fruit that's being produced there.
That's awesome. One of the things that really impressed me is not something you said, Matt. You said a lot of stuff that impressed me, but I pay attention to everything. People see me talking all the time. They don't realize that I pay more attention to things around me than they realize. And what caught my attention was the comments of the people who were near us in your staff. Amazing people. One of them was talking to me. We were just talking, and he said, one of the things I enjoy about working with Matt is that I've seen him change since he started Torah. Oh, okay, that's cool. But then the next day, I heard some other person say the same thing. So obviously, Torah had an impact in your life, that it changed your perspective and your approach, that now it's opened doors in churches for you. I mean, I was very much surprised that we're driving to this Sunday church because you were teaching that morning, and we're driving and talk about people want the best real estate. They want to have the best corners, corner lot. Make sure that they're visual by everybody. And then we're driving, and then we make a left, and in the middle of woods, there's a big old church of 500 people. And I'm going like, don't tell me you need everything perfect to seek out after God. Well, I want you to tell us first about the churches that you minister to, because you also introduced me to the local Messianic congregation that's there.
Mm.
And that was kind of cool, but you have the favor. God has given you favor to go into all these churches. And I think I have a feeling why, but I'm interested to hear, how that happened. And did the work that you're doing, because the house was there, some of the kids were there, and did the work that you're doing had an impact? And then recognizing that your heart is actually leaning towards helping the local people, giving a better way of life to certain people, and also helping the broken and the needy. And I think that's important. Tell us about that. And also, Mike, if you want to add to that, you can go ahead and do that too. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah. So during we'll just say the Sunday years of our life, we had built several relationships going to Honduras with multiple churches across Tegucigalpa, and partnering with pastors doing ministry and things like that. When we were going through the residency process and getting through the certification process, we didn't want that to stop us from being engaged and involved in ministry. And we came to Honduras in ministry with James 1:27 written on our heart,
Yeah.
right? And an undefiled religion is this: to visit the widow and the orphan and the distress, and to remain unstained from the world. And widows was a big part of our heart and what we were wanting to do. And with the Harasim church that we went to, which is one of the largest churches not only in Honduras, but they have planted in the last 30 plus years over 450 churches across the
That's the one
country.
we went to,
And so
right? That's the one we went to, correct? Okay.
that's right. And when we were working on connecting and trying to find out, how do we connect to widows? And I think that's where, when you read Deuteronomy 10, or the prophets, are a lot where in Torah, where it talks about the Father executing justice and mercy,
Yeah.
right? I don't think people quite realize it is complex. It's relational to execute,
Mm-hmm.
To ensure that that work is being done, not just funded, but done. And hey, well, we have some partnerships, we have some financial means. We're trying to help these widows. How do we find a widow?
Right.
And in prayer, we just really felt like we heard we need to find widows through the pastors of this country, right? Through relationship. And with that, Nadia, who you met
Yeah.
while they were there, Nadia said, I used to be a worship leader at one of the largest churches in Honduras. You're talking about meeting more pastors. You want me to get you a coffee with that pastor? And I said, no, I have coffee. Well, I go and we have coffee with the pastor, and I had not yet met him. And this is 2021. And he says, well, what kind of ministry are you trying to do? And I tell him what we're doing with the certification process and the children and all that. But I said, but the thing I'm trying to connect with pastors about right now is I'm really trying to connect with pastors to help the widow country, because what you'll find in any developing country, but certainly not, or certainly the norm also in Honduras, is that a widow is especially difficult to survive as a woman, to stay protected, as well as to provide for her children, make sure they get an
Mhm.
education. But predominantly socialized nation, there's no homeschool. And so the government is tracking whether or not your child is in public school at least through the 8th grade. And if the government finds out your child is not in school, the government will come knock on your door and take your
Oh, wow.
kids, because they assume
Wow.
there is a position. They go, well, do I continue to work and not lose the house and keep and not make sure the kids are going to school? Well, but eventually they're going to come take my kids. But if I don't go to work and I make school, I'm eventually going to lose the house. And so, and there's a
Yeah,
lot of widows that family, they don't have connections, they don't have people around to help that can support them to even make those transitions that happen in life. And so widows are a systemic reason for orphans that are happening in this
right.
country, which really go into maybe some Hebrew terminology. The moment there's a widow, I think maybe there's an orphan, because it says the fatherless, right? The
That's right.
fatherless. And so,
That's right.
but
People don't
so
realize.
we're sitting down. That's right. And
Yeah, you cut off
we're
a
sitting
little bit.
down, we're
I'm
talking.
sorry. Repeat that again. You're
No,
cutting
you're
off
fine.
a little bit.
So we're sitting down and we're talking with the pastor, and he interrupts me about 5 minutes in. He says, "I'd like to bring my wife. I want her to listen to this. Would you mind starting over?" I said, "No, absolutely, that's fine." And so he brought his wife, and I started over and told him about what we're trying to do with widows. And his wife interrupts me, and she said, "Do you know our story?" I said, "No, I don't know your story." And she says, "Well, we're both widowers,
Oh,
you know,
wow.
second marriage.
Yeah.
Uh, Berto lost his wife, and I lost my husband, and we both had kids. It was very difficult, and but we found each other, and it was beautiful. But we have such a heart for widows, and we have been praying that somebody was going to come to Honduras and start helping the widows of this nation
Oh, man. That's cool.
and doorstep." And then they begin to tell me not only the history of their church, but they said, "So you believe that the best way to get to widows is through pastors?" And I said, "Yes." And then he said, "Do you know what today is?" I'm like, "Thursday?" And he said, "Today is our anniversary. It's our 30th anniversary as a church." And he says, "And every year for our anniversary, we bus in all the pastors from all the church plants around the country, and we do a 3-day event." He says,
Wow.
"So right, there is almost 450 pastors across Honduras all coming to this church tonight to kick off this event." And he said, "I would like you to come back tonight, and I want you to tell all of these pastors exactly what you're trying to do."
Oh, it's amazing.
It,
That's awesome. I mean, that's so cool because I've always Psalm 89:14. Mike, you know the verse.
I do.
Righteousness and justice is the foundation of God's throne.
Correct.
And when I read that book by Moshe Wainfeld, and I understood the importance of righteousness and justice, how God defines it, now how the world does. And everything that you do that deals with putting out there the actions of God's righteousness, his character, his justice will always prosper because we become his image bearers. We become his representatives. And then people get to see through our actions that we are representing the Most High and also representing his son, Yeshua. So let me ask you a question, and I want to move on to the kids and then how to connect with you. But some people make some questions that I want you here, so I want you to answer them. Uh, Someone asked how can they support? So if somebody wants to support, another question that goes with that is if they cannot support financially, how can they help another way? So give them a little of an idea how they can help you. I wanted to take those questions are very good ones, and I want them to have a proactive time for them to take an action about something that they're hearing right now. So how can they help you? Donating to, or if they don't have the money, how can they support you to enhance the visibility of the ministry?
Absolutely. So I think there's several ways that everyone can help. And if well, so the first is we just love to invite you to come and consider coming. It is such a blessing to our team, blessing to our kids. It's a blessing to the country when you come and see just what the Father is doing. And it's awesome. It's transformative. And it is so encouraging and uplifting for everyone in the home, within the ministry, and the ministries
Yeah,
that as well. And so, first, just an invitation for you considering to come. That's huge. Secondly, I think following us, pushing it, helping bring exposure to put what we're doing in front of more people is just amazing. And because sometimes it's just getting in front of the right person is just such a divine appointment. And so encourage you guys to follow us on socials that we're on, from Facebook to Instagram, on YouTube, and the whole Bible community. And following us, tracking what we're doing, and connecting with us and sharing our stuff, especially as we're putting stuff out. 3 times a year, we do a donation drive, and I'm not talking about financial donations. I'm talking about shoes, children's clothing, things like that. Reach out to us. All of my personal information is on our website. Send me an email, and we ship donations down there that are such a blessing for the kids and those that we're ministering to. And so that's an opportunity. Maybe it's, if you're not able to financially sow into what we're doing, maybe sometimes it's just, instead of giving it to Goodwill, consider on sending us a package in the mail of used children's clothing or in shoes. That's huge.
Right. And
And
they need it too. I saw the kids, they appreciate every gift they got, by the way. That was
that's right.
they don't have a lot. So so they can go to the website, but I want to share with you something that you established. It's called wholebiblecommunity.com.
That's right.
Tell us a little bit. Let me see if I could actually add it here. I would like for the audience to see.
Yes.
I'm going to see if I could do it. Give me a second. I'm doing it on the fly here, but there we go. This one. Now, this is a platform that you started.
That's
correct?
right. That's right.
Take a minute to tell us about this, and also, Mike, when you can, after Matt speaks here, how are you involved with the whole Bible community, and what are you guys trying to accomplish? It's like a Facebook type, but for believers all over the United States and the world, correct?
That's right. Think of Facebook meets Etsy meets Eventbrite meets the One Fellowship Finder. It's it is our goal to connect the body of Messiah in a greater way. And not just in what we're doing, but all the beautiful things that are happening in this walk with amazing teachers like yourself, to other ministries. My wife and I, when we got into this walk, it was so hard finding fellowship, finding people to celebrate the feast days with, and uh, and we're trying to solve that, as well as just connect and find community.
Yeah. I noticed that you have a whole page here when they have Sukkot all over the United States. It's pretty cool.
That's right. And these fellowships, they're putting up their fellowships, they're putting it up. They're running this. We have thousands of people on it already globally. And what's important to me is we're not only doing this in the United States, but we're trying to connect the body globally, right? To the 12, to the four corners. And so we have people in Europe already on it. We have people in Africa and Asia and Australia, literally on every continent. We have people already a part of this, and really exciting for this. It's going to be an app by May,
Yeah.
and just like Facebook, follow us here. You can bring your community, your group, spread the word about this, because this is really, I believe, a tool that's going to mobilize more and more people in this walk to get connected, to network with one another, and really, really excited for the work that the team has done to get this launched and on the ground, at least from a browser standpoint.
Yeah.
And then once it becomes an app, the goal is every fellowship. Fellowships are using GroupMe or WhatsApp or Signal, and this will help fellowships manage the comms of their fellowship, manage their feast days, and really be a value add to the community.
So
And so
this is your app. This is an app that you developed to try to connect the community as a whole, correct?
that's correct. That's correct.
That's really cool. I mean, I think that one thing is, again, you have your hands in different things that you're touching. I think it's important that we can see the intent is to bring people together And I'm sure not everybody's going to agree with each other and everything, but the whole point is to have fellowship and maybe break bread together. You'll be able to agree more than disagree. Mike, how do you feel about the website, being involved with Matt and the ministry? And what are your goals, and what are you also trying to accomplish coming alongside Matt in this amazing job he's doing that in Honduras?
Yeah. When Daniel Joseph invited me to join the team as the online ministries pastor, we recognized immediately that the number of people that follow, just like you, they follow from all over the world. And the one thing they're looking for is community, right? My job is not to minister to people online in whole. In part, I want to get them connected to a local fellowship. And, most people are familiar with the 119 Fellowship Finder. That's how a lot of people found me originally when we were doing the house church. The tools that Matthew and his team are developing through Whole Bible Community will surpass that already. I mean, the map is incredible. The events, you can go on there and find our Shabbat services already are on there. You can do a whole bunch of marketplace stuff. Think about what the Torah teaches about supporting one another who are in covenant. The marketplace is a fulfillment of that, right? So we should spend our money with people who are Torah keepers as well. I'm meeting new people all the time on there. Daily, I'm getting people messaging me like, hey, like this morning, I just found you on Whole Bible Community. I had a question. I love that what Matthew is doing is, and it's not something you or I could do, Rico. From your ministry, people who follow you are pretty loyal to your ministry, or a couple other people that you may walk with, but they're not as easily open to, hey, if I said, hey, I'm going to build Whole Bible Community, they'd be like, oh, that's a Corner Fringe thing. No, it's not. It's just a place where your ministry and our ministry can be on the same platform. And I love what he's doing. As far as, coming alongside Matthew, you saw it when we were there. Matthew is a workhorse, right? And we came back from Honduras.
He doesn't get tired, man. He plays with those kids for hours.
He doesn't. I don't even know. You should have been with me the first trip when he played jump rope for like 2 hours with them. Didn't stop once.
My knees were hurting for 2 days.
At one point, he looked at me and he tried to hand me the jump rope, and I was like, "Nah, I'm good. I'm good. We're not doing that, right?" But one of the things that my wife and I talked about when we came back from our trip was, we're worried about Matthew and Christy and how they need to slow down. You know what? There's no slowing down. The mission, the work that they're doing is so critically important. Lives are at stake. Children, you talked about babies being born. Anywhere else in the world, those babies may not have made it into the world. But the work that Matthew and his family are doing is so important. So we had to come to a crossroads in our faith and go, we can either tell them, hey, slow down, or we can go, let's put our shoes on and come alongside them and do some work with them. And that's what we chose.
That is true.
And that's kind of what I hope more of the community will do.
Man, I hope that we find a way to find a common ground. I mean, like we were talking at the table, and it was a great trip because I was there. Only a few people knew who I was, which is great. I was like, nobody knows who I am as a teacher. That's thank God. Okay, I could just chill out and relax, because sometimes when you go places where they know you as a teacher, it's like you're going like, who's gonna throw the first punch? You know what I mean? And I met Mike, and we start talking about immediately we engage about the word, and we start hanging out. And then I realized real quickly, the other guys don't know who I am. That is so cool. I could just be one of the guys, And it was interesting because we're sitting at the table, and you tell me, what do you mean by this? And we were sitting at the table. I only met you for the first time, but then somebody texted you, and you say, hey, he's here right now. Why don't you ask him? Yeah. And we were able to reconcile something that someone did that create havoc using one of my teachings. And I was like, oh my God, I have no idea. And it created a fellowship with each other, because then I got to see what he's dealing with. He got to see how I responded, and it created a kinship there that, we care about each other. If he didn't care about me, he would have never said anything. You know what I mean? He would just let me hanging, somebody not liking me for something I didn't do. Yeah. Right. So and that was really, I
don't mean to cut you off. I've been wanting to point out, like, when you think about all the divisions in the faith movement, right, especially the Messianic community, what Matthew is doing is what Moshe talks about in that book about justice and righteousness, right? He is doing the word. And think about just that, right? He's caring for the most vulnerable in society in Honduras and here in the US. I mean, it's still impacting people here. But look at what that's doing. Just by being doers of the word,
Yeah, that's right.
doors are opening up to Sunday
Yeah.
churches. How many people in the Messianic community have lost family relationships because
Yeah.
of the Sabbath, right? That's not what we see in Matthew's work. You see doors being open because he's serving God the way God said to. And then look at our relationship now.
Right.
Like, I wouldn't have known you, but we were
Right.
both drawn to the work that was being done.
We were there for one purpose. It was not about us. It was about God's word.
Absolutely.
And it
Yeah.
opened the door of conversation. And then you realize that I'm not what people thought, and and maybe misunderstandings, which happens in every ministry. But if we were focusing on each other, we would have never had the conversation. So
Absolutely.
I think it's amazing that by focusing on God's righteousness and justice through the vehicle that God chose in this case, which is you, Matt, is helping heal other areas too. And I think that's all very, very good. Hey, I got a good friend of mine who's watching, Dina Dye. She's in New Mexico, yeah, New Mexico. And she's also a teacher and a good friend of mine. I got to have you back on, Dina. Give me a call so we can set it up. But I'm glad that you joined because this topic is very important. Matt, I got a question for you, and I don't know how much I'm free to exchange on this. So I want to ask you to tell me how far I could do. But some of the stories of the kids, especially the young ladies with the babies, that really impacted me. And I like for you, because you're the one who know the story, and I don't know how far we can go on that. I'm not privy to some of the info, but tell us a little bit about. They impacted me. They're so young, and they had little babies already, and the circumstances how they got their babies is something that is of a horror movie, but yet they were loving to the babies, and they were caring for the babies. And I want you to tell the audience that house is not just for for kids. They're also kids who have kids in the worst type of circumstances. Tell us about how you handling that particular scenario. It's got to be the most challenging when you have
Yeah.
young kids having babies and teaching them to love them and take care of them after the
Yeah.
experiences they went through. I mean, I'm blown away by what you guys are doing there.
Absolutely. No, last year we had 5 births,
Wow.
and these girls are from 12 to 15, and it is
12 to
difficult.
15.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my God.
And
Baby.
one young lady in particular, I'll share her story because her abuse started at home. Her abuse started at home before she started being sold,
Hmm.
and a while. But as she's come out and going through the process, she was abused tenfold longer outside the home. She was abused tenfold worse outside the home. But the most energy we've had to focus on in her healing is the abuse she received inside the home. Right? It's almost like an expectation that people outside will hurt you, but when it's your own family, that's
Yeah.
that um that hurts the worst, and that shakes your core, it shakes your trust. And for these kids, and so much of it is earning trust back. Unfortunately, because of the traumas, because of the abuse, when we receive a young lady and she's pregnant, which is pretty common, um, there is depending on how long she's been pregnant, depends on how long we have. And what we really try to initially work through is getting her to a state of mind before that baby comes, to find a peace and a love for the baby that's in her, and not a hate.
Because
And
they're a product of abuse.
because they're a product of abuse, and getting her to perceive the child in a way that's in any way remotely healthy is so hard. And and we have a good track record. We're not 10 for 10, but we have
Yeah.
a great track where the baby is still with mom, because what will happen, unfortunately, is they will project the trauma and the abuse onto the child.
Right.
And we can't have that happen.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so a lot of work, it's especially with these girls who are pregnant, because uh, it's not just the past that is hard for them to overcome, and their identity and everything we have to walk them through, but then leading up to a child having a child, and that's fearful, that's difficult,
yeah,
that's life changing, and
yeah.
that's just an added layer of what this child is going to walk through the rest of her life. And with us, them still being part of the reintegration process in the home, we also have to equip them to be a mother, because in 6 months after that baby's been born, the government may say, "Hey, all right, home safe to go back to. She's going back to mom and dad." Well, she's going back to
Mm.
mom and dad, deal with her traumas, with the baby, and we also occupational therapy and for the mom and the babies on how to be a mom, and all of that is a part of that equipping of going. How do we support her for the best transition, and then also knowing part of what we do at Project E15 is we're going to walk with these kids for the rest of their life,
Mhm.
in relationship with them, continue to support them, even once they're getting reintegrated back to their homes.
Wow, that's powerful. I mean, Mike, I don't know about you. I mean, but when I saw those little girls with babies,
Yeah.
and then I hear a little bit about the stories that you guys told me, it's really heartbreaking
Mhm.
because many of us in the Western, I mean, here in America, cannot relate with that. Many people can't. In my case, I can't. In my personal testimony, I've never had that experience. And it's very difficult to think about the trauma mentally. So when they come into the house, I mean, talk about a challenge dealing with every aspect of their lives being chaotic.
Yeah.
That in so many people's mind, it will be that's a recipe for destruction, and yet you are taking a complete broken vessel
Mhm.
and trying to restore them to love somebody when they themselves have never felt any love. And I think a lot of it has to do with you guys teaching them Torah, because what you need to see in the audience that they teach them Torah there. They are taught the Bible and the Torah, and they understand. So I think a lot of it has to do with the educational platform that you have, not only in the regular school but also in the fear of the Lord. Do you think that has a lot to do with their transition once they see that your actions and the way you're behaving, they feel safe? Because I saw them. I don't know about you, Mike. When I was there in the beginning, the first time I got there, I was very hesitant because understanding the situation, you're not going to go over there and say hello to people. I mainly stay with the kids, with the boys. I
Yeah.
think that's only proper. And I saw people look at you the first hour like, I don't know you, I can't trust you. And little by little, they start watching us. And then you saw how okay, if Matt likes them, then we're good. And that's my sense. Did you get the same sense?
Yeah. Oh yeah. No question about it. Remember, this is my second trip.
Right.
So
That's why
my
I'm asking
first,
you. Yeah.
yeah, my first trip was very much like yours. I watched the young mothers, and by the way, it's only been a year, so 2 trips down, I can see tremendous growth,
Yeah.
and like these. I said it when Matthew did a recap one of those nights there. I actually believe the children at Hogar Manasseh potentially could be the future leaders of Honduras.
Yeah.
I really truly believe that this whole life concept of, which is what I think the Torah teaches, is going to produce fruit that you and I will see 20 years from now. And yes, the children have been. I mean, think about it, like, could you? I mean, could you imagine having some of those things done to you? Take the boys, 2 o'clock in the morning, being
Yeah.
beaten, get out in the field, and then they sat next to me in church, and I won't forget. Like, obviously I don't. One of the boys. Oh, is it still working?
You're back. You're back. Go ahead.
Thank you. One of the boys turned to me at the time they were taking the offering, and he gave me his own money. I forgot to bring any cash with me into the church. He gave me his money to put into that offering. They were teaching me throughout. I mean, like, just
Well,
you can't do that without a whole life thing. So what's being done down there? Yes, I would attribute it to the living out of the Torah, not just teaching it, but living it out.
I mean, can you imagine? There's a lot of social experiments people do. They pretend to be homeless, and they go ask people to feed them that have money, and they normally throw them out, treat them like trash, and then they themselves go to someone who's homeless, and then they ask for whatever the homeless person has, and they willingly share. And I think this is the reason why we have a testimony, because we all have been through something, so we could always relate with someone about what God has done for our lives. But I think you're right. If we continue to invest in these kids, and they get to see the other side of the coin, that there is true people who love God and are righteousness and justice, man, and once they tap into that, and how reciprocal do you think, Matt, these kids will be once they realize God is good? He sent those people in my worst time of need. I was saved. God saved me. Can you imagine the desire for them to say, I need to go get some more of those kids and show them how good God is? That's why we need to support this ministry, because we need to empower those people who are actually practicing righteousness and justice. Ultimately, it is the God of Israel who receives all the glory and honor. We're just vessels.
Amen. Amen.
And that's something that I'm hoping that you will continue, Matt. I really want to thank you for all the work you do. And if anyone wants to connect with you guys again, please tell us again how they can meet up with both of you. Like, let's go with you, Mike, and then I'll go with Matt.
Okay. Before let me, can I just give a plug? Okay.
Yeah, of course.
You heard this story too. There are children every week waiting for a bed to open up at Hogar Manasseh.
Yeah.
The need is urgent. Matthew is not, and he's not telling you, like, he's telling you the story, but I'm telling you, there are children that us in America are responsible. They're, with pornography coming out and sexual immorality throughout our country, we are in part responsible for this pandemic that's taking place in Honduras.
Mm-hmm.
Go to projecte15.com today and support them. Yeah. Share their posts on your Facebook page. Tell the whole world. Bring a light into the darkness and support the work that's going on there. Yeah. There's a child right now. I guarantee you, there's a child right now praying that somebody would open a door and give them a safe space to sleep tonight.
Yeah.
And we're not able to do that because the beds are full.
Well, it just so happened that you guys, and I appreciate it, because if you guys notice, the whole intent is to talk about the project. Not once is Matt or Mike asking you, pushing for money. No. But it just so happened that what I was able to see, they are expanding the house to add buildings for more beds. Yeah. And it's not done yet. There was a ministry who donated time to go and build it, right? Tell us a little bit about that. Let me go a little longer, because I think this is important. I forgot to mention it earlier, but now that it opened, it's perfect. Thank you, Mac. Thank you, Mike, for that. But right now you are expanding in the back of the house to add how many beds? And tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, we're adding 4 buildings to the house right now.
Okay.
It's going well over 50 beds in the first phase of construction. And so we'll be able to double that as needed when that comes. But we'll add 50 beds to the home. The Grafted Church out of Tryon, Oklahoma, did a trip. They helped put the foundation. And so that's a great opportunity, not only to help with the building project, but financially, but even coming and being part of the construction. We're about to go vertical with the walls and doing electric in the roof, and really working to get these completed as soon as possible, because in the last 12 months, this administration has rescued more children in the United States than in the 4 years prior, which is keeping us busier than ever, and really trying to keep up with the kids that are coming back.
So if someone cannot support financially, but they are an electrician, a plumber, a builder, construction, or whatever they do, they can come and help and do a trip just to build and to expand on it, just like the congregation in Oklahoma did, correct?
That's right.
So there are different ways that people can cooperate with them. So be proactive and be part of this ministry. I can testify that I saw what they're doing. I don't necessarily always support things that I don't know. If I don't know the people and their character and what they're doing, I try to be careful. And I'm glad I went. I'm honored I met you, and both of you and the other men that were with us. I had a great experience. and it made an impact in my life. In our congregation, we're talking to the pastors. We have a Spanish congregation, and we're hoping that in the future we can take a group over of our young people so they get to see. Sometimes the youth in America, they have this world, the worldview is a little different, and I think it will be great for some of the youth to visit and get to see what real struggle is and how good God is to us. And not everybody has the same benefits and the same opportunities, but we can make a difference to open the way for them to be healed so that the God that gave you the opportunity and the benefits can be reciprocal and we can do it with them. So if a group wants to go, I don't know how much you can tell me about this, but let's say Mike is taking a group. What would be the steps, Matt, for a group to go, and how does that work? And how can they get in contact with you? And tell us a little bit about that process. Because recently, about 15 men went, and you picked us up, you fed us, you housed us, and you transport us everywhere. And I thought that was very well organized. So tell us how that happens and how you go about it. And that way, if someone wants to bring a small group or they want to join a group, they know what to expect.
That's right. So if you go to projecte15.com, there's and you go to the About Us, there's a section called Forms where they can sign up for a short-term or a long-term mission. We have a young lady there right now. She's doing an entire semester. She's a junior in college, and she's there volunteering in the home. She's teaching English and has just been a huge asset. She's a wonderful young lady.
Give the website again.
Projecte15.com. And so if you fill out that form, we'll reach out to you, as well as the fact that if you're following us on our socials, as we have trips, we have one in May, we got one in June, we got one in July, we got one in August. We have several already coming up. Or if you have a fellowship that you say, hey, well, I can get 15, 20 just out of my fellowship, we could just do a group out of our church. Shoot me an email, reach out. Let's start planning that, because what we love to is especially until these houses, these buildings are finished, we want to keep this coming, because that's such a huge support in helping us with the labor and sowing and sweat equity, if you will.
Yeah.
Project.
Well, that's great. Well, gentlemen, for me, it has been an honor having you here. I pray that the Lord will provide and continue to bless you, Matt and Mike. They'll keep working together to enhance the kingdom, to actually show them what righteousness and justice is in God's worldview. And that I know now why some of the congregations respect you. And I'm honored to be connected with you in this case. And I pray that I could help. We talked about the things that I'm able to help and provide. And I'm hoping that we continue to work together to enhance the kingdom of God. We all have different roles, and I think that you're doing yours really well. And I'm honored that you allow me to be part of that and to witness it. So thank you for inviting me. And Mike, man, it was really nice meeting you, bro. You really helped also understand and kind of guide things along. And I pray that many of you who are watching will consider joining us sometime. I'm definitely going to go back. I just got to find the window to go back in the future. I'm hoping I take my wife with me. And yes. I think it's important. And we want the Lord to gain honor and praise, but we need to also act. And I'm sure that all the ministries too in different places. I recently heard a brother who visited us, and I just escaped my mind his name. He has something similar in Peru. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. So we want to be able to help different ministries to get this out there, to help the needy, the homeless, and the kids who have been trafficked. So, Matt, any last words you want to say before we get off here?
No, please. I just want to say thank you again, Rico, for coming. Thank you for giving us this outlet to talk about it. And thank you for the ministry that you're doing. Man, we're so grateful. Yeah. And I'd anybody listen to this to connect with us, to reach out to projecte15.com. And we're an open book. And as we're talking about with WBC and Whole Bible Community, it's about getting the body together and connecting and participating in kingdom things together.
Amen. Mike, any last words, brother? Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for the invite. Yeah, listen, if anyone really wants to just talk and hear what it's like firsthand, you can email me at mike@cornerfringe.com, or we have cornerfringedixon.com as our website. I'm happy to talk to anyone. My wife and I will be hosting trips to Honduras. We already have one scheduled for July, and we're looking at next year. So if you want to talk about that firsthand, feel free to reach out to me.
You got it. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me. It's an honor to be connected with you. And everyone who's watching, thank you for being here today, this afternoon. Do me a favor, hit the like, subscribe, and specifically share this video. Listen, I have a whole bunch of teachings on my YouTube channel, and I'm honored if you will share it. But I think this one takes the priority because it's not just a teaching to help one person. It's a movement to help many people who can be a great influence to many people. Can you imagine if one of those young kids like Julio, comes out of there and becomes a great businessman and becomes a politician and becomes a teacher, becomes a Bible, whatever, the impact it can make to maybe billions of people. So we need to invest, and we need to invest in the kingdom. May the Lord bless you guys. Thank you so much for joining me. And please continue to stay tuned to our podcast we're going to be doing. And God bless you guys. Thank you, Matt, and thank you, Mike. And I look forward to see you guys soon, okay?
All right. Shalom, brother.
Shalom, guys. Take care of yourself. We'll see you guys next time for the next podcast. Bye-bye.